When it comes to web app and API security, the choice is simple. You can choose Fastly's security solution that teams will actually use in full blocking mode, just like 90% of their customers. Or you can stick with costly options that you probably just turn off. You can get Fastly's all-in-one platform that protects apps everywhere they live, however they're built. Or departments can agree to disagree. You can go to securityweekly.com/Fastly to learn more. Or you can just wish you had. Can you pinpoint the 10 security gaps in your attack surface that account for 90% of your risk? It's impossible using a combination of scanners, pen tests, breach and attack simulation tools, and manual processes. But attackers can find your gaps. They perform recon and target the weaknesses with the best return. The Cycognito platform sees your external attack surface the way attackers do, eliminating blind spots. Powered by a global bot network, the Cycognito platform prioritizes your highest risk security gaps, integrates with existing workflows, and reduces operational costs. Visit securityweekly.com/Cycognito. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. We're back. I have a new chair because the old one broke. Unfortunately, not on air, so everyone could see it. But we are more than happy to announce that we will be at InfoSec World 2021 in person, October 25th through the 27th in 2021. This year, our annual partnership with InfoSec World is extra special, as we are both part of the Cyber Risk Alliance. What does that mean for Security Weekly listeners and InfoSec World attendees? Well, you get to see and hear from many of us at Security Weekly and save 20% off your World's Pass. Please visit securityweekly.com/ISW 2021 to register using our discount code. Joff Fire has joined us from the host side. Joff, welcome. Nice to have you.
Hello. It's good to be here. I am obviously very glad to be here on a Thursday night because we love doing this.
It's a lot of fun. Here to join in the festivities is Rick Howard, the CISO at the Cyberwire, a cybersecurity podcast network, a former commander of the U.S. Army's Computer Emergency Response Team, and founder of the Cyber Threat Alliance. He joins us today to talk about the Cybersecurity Canon, a rock and roll hall of fame for cybersecurity books. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on this late Thursday night. I really appreciate it.
Rick, it is nice to have you on, my friend. I am so excited about this segment.
Is that what that smell is?
I do. I've listened to many of the books on this, and I hope we can dig into maybe some of them. Have you read all of these, Rick?
I've read most of them. Okay,
Yeah.
so we can have a long discussion about that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so before we get too far, maybe we should share that list with our listeners.
It's in the show notes.
Okay. So https icdt.osu.edu/cybercanon, CANON, right?
Yes. And Rick, I guess I want to start off a little bit about how this project was created.
Yeah, well, I'm first of all, I'm a big reader, okay, and I am chagrined that most of our peers don't do a lot of reading. I'm glad to hear that you're a big consumer of cybersecurity books.
I listen though, Rick. Is that cheating?
No.
I know some people poke fun at me for that, but
No, it totally counts. I listen to Audible all the time. If you want to get through a lot of material, that is the way to do it. In fact, I went through the Harry Potter series last summer.
Nice.
That's 7 books, right? One actor, one reader, and he did 35 different voices. It was fabulous.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Audible counts, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so I was gonna,
So Rick, how did you create? I mean, is there like a panel of people? Like, how did this get created?
Yeah, it started because what I really love about the cybersecurity industry, okay, is that it's changing all the time, right? There's all kinds of new stuff. There's always some new bad guy doing really horrible things, but kind of cool, okay? But really horrible things. And there's always some white hat trying to counter it. And so that's what I love about this job. It changes all the time. What I hate about the job is that it changes all the time, right? And we struggle to keep up with everything. And what most of us do is read and listen to lots of cybersecurity stuff. And I realized about 7 years ago that there were a bunch of books that were published, but nobody really knew much about them. So what we did is we started up this project called the Cybersecurity Canon Project. That's canon with one N, as in canon of literature, not 2 N's where you blow stuff up, all right? Mm-hmm. And so we set it up like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, We have outside practitioners. These are CISOs, these are red teamers, these are blue teamers, they're lawyers, they're anybody that's interested in the craft. They read the books and they write reviews of them, right? And they put them into one of three categories. The first category is this is a Hall of Fame book. Everybody should read it by now. If you haven't, you have a big hole in your cybersecurity education. The second category is, okay, maybe not a Hall of Fame book, but if you are interested in the topic, it's a pretty good niche book and it's worth reading. But the third category and the service we give back to the community is do not read, right? Because there are lots of crap cybersecurity books out there. And if you're going to spend time reading a book this year, maybe you don't want to pick a bad one, right? And so we do the work for you so you don't have to. So we've been doing it now for about 7 years. There's about 40 books in the Hall of Fame. So if you're looking to start reading, go to the website that you guys mentioned at the top of the show and start with the Hall of Famers. And then once you get through that, you can work your way through the candidate lists and then go from there. All right. So that's how it got started.
That's really awesome. What's your favorite book on the list, Rick?
I love that question. Okay. My favorite cybersecurity nonfiction book. We're going to talk about fiction too, because that's the fun part. Right?
Yeah.
But,
right. And then Rick, that was going to be one of my questions. Like I was reading through this and I'm like, oh, looks like technical book. And I get down to the bottom and there's like Stieg Larsson and the girl with the dragon tattoo. And I'm like, oh, there's fiction here too. Cause awesome.
Yeah. Well, let me come back to that. All right.
For sure.
But my favorite book of all time, okay, is Dr. Clifford Stoll's Cuckoo's Egg. Have you guys read Cuckoo's Egg yet?
Yep. Cover to cover, probably maybe even before I really truly got into cybersecurity. It was one of the books that piqued my, like many.
I listened to it on audiobook this winter.
Is that right?
Yep.
It is what you said is what happened to a lot of people back in the early days. It's an old book. It came out in the late 80s. And it actually was published when I was in grad school, when I was supposed to be doing my thesis. I decided to read that instead because it was much more fun. All right. And it's a pretty easy book to read. It's you can get through it in a weekend. And back in those days, authors put their email addresses in the books because, email was just, new. This is, like I said, late 80s. And so I got done. I sent Dr. Stoll a very gushing appraisal of his book, and he answered me in 15 minutes, right? So ever since then, I've been a fan, all right? So can I just describe the book? Because I just love it, all right? Yeah.
Please do.
So, Dr. Stoll was is an astronomer, and he was working at Lawrence Livermore Labs, but they were downsizing his department. And Dr. Stoll is how do I describe him? He's a lefty liberal, right? And so if you think about, there's the right, there's the middle, there's the left, there's a little bit on the extreme. He's way over there on the left side, right? He makes his own clothes. He's got long hair. He's got tattoos. He's got earrings. He gardens his own food. He makes his own shoes. He's that guy.
And Rick, the story goes, because I've read a couple of books that go into the backstory behind that book and those events, is that there's two Lawrence Berkeley labs. One is more academic and one is more defense contractor. And I'm going to get the name screwed up. And he didn't want to work for the one that was defense contractor because of his political.
Yeah, because he hates the man, right? Yeah. He hates the man, right? And so, but he's getting ready to get laid off. But everybody likes him because he's funny, he's charming, he's got a great sense of humor. And so the IT department for the academic side, they say, hey, Cliff, come work for us. We need someone to run this Unix lab. Right, in
support of the astronomers, like match made in heaven, right?
Yeah, right. And then in a year, your job will come back open. They'll start hiring guys. You can go back to being an astronomer, but in the meantime, you can help us out. Oh, and by the way, there's a 75-cent accounting error in the student database records because back then we charged students for computer time. So in all of the student body, every month it was off by 75 cents and nobody could figure out why. So Cliff, come work for us, run the Unix lab, track down this 75-cent accounting error. You'll be a hero to us and you get your job back, in a year. That 75-cent accounting error was the first evidence of a public cyber espionage attack run by the Russians using East German hacker mercenaries to break into U.S. academic institutions so they can break into government institutions, because back then there wasn't any security. It was all just strings and cans, right? Mm-hmm. So Cliff, while he does this, he treats this like an experiment. He has hypotheses, he has data collection, he tests his hypotheses, and he logs everything.
He has a pager, right? He has a pager.
He has a pager, right? And he pretty much invents incident response, okay, back in the late 80s. The way we do it now is pretty much the way he laid it out, back then. So that's one reason you'd like to read it. But what's really fun about the book is here's this guy, this lefty liberal, who hates the man.
Yep.
But as he's tracking down these bad guys, he's got to talk to the FBI and the NSA and the CIA, and so that's fun to watch. There's a love story in it, okay, that's fabulous, all right? And there is even a chocolate chip cookie recipe in the back of the original book that I have tried, right? So it's just fabulous. So I hand that book to any newbie that comes up to me and says, "What should I read?" Read that book. Okay,
have you read Cyberpunk: Outlaws and Hackers on the Computer Frontier by Katie Hafner and John Markoff?
I have not read that. It's on my list, but I keep pushing it. So tell me why I should read that one.
If you loved The Cuckoo's Egg, you are going to love this book, because it goes into the book is broken up into 3 sections: one on Kevin Mitnick, one on the German hackers that were loosely affiliated with the Chaos Communication Congress, right? But they were on the other side of Clifford Stoll. And it goes into depth into their story, and then at the end, it goes into...
Really? I've never heard of that before. That's fabulous.
Yeah. So, I have a whole new perspective, appreciation of the story of Clifford Stoll, because now I've read the other side of it. And this book, I don't know, it was published a long time ago.
So let's put it this way, Paul. I read this book in paperback and still have it when I was in high school in 1991.
Cyberpunk?
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the last chapter is Robert Tappan Morris.
Yes.
In all of what I thought was really interesting, to delve into history, got me really excited, all their stories intertwine very gently, but all their stories intertwine together.
And I think that was part of the magic of that book, was that they all intertwined.
Well, he has an appendix. Stoll has an appendix at the end of the original book that talks about the Morris worm, right? And I was in grad school when that Morris worm hit. I was going to a government grad school, right? So, yeah, we experienced it full up. So, yeah, you're right. It overlapped, and total immersion experience.
So I won't ruin the story of Cyberpunk for you, but there was a lot of you should contact me after you read it. We'll have a chat.
I love it. I'll come back on and we'll discuss it. Right? Yeah, it's great.
It's really cool. Marcus Hess was the hacker that was breaking into Stoll's systems.
And of course, now I got to go back and read that book. I mean, it's literally been 30 years since I read that book.
I can't believe nobody's told me about that. I hawked this book. I've been hawking this book for 20 years. No one mentioned that the other side of the story. I'm glad you did. Thank you for that.
It is fascinating. I won't spoil it for you, because there was stuff in there I'm like, I didn't know all the stuff was going on, because I also think, Rick, a lot of the books, ones on this list and others, are a very US centric view of hacking, and there was some awesome hacking going on in Germany and a lot of other countries that just didn't make the translation. Basically,
one of the lessons there was understand the adversary. Don't boot them out right away, right? Like, if you knee-jerk reaction and pull the plug, they might just be back. So, hey, let's learn a little bit before you pull the plug.
Well, I think that was what Cliff did. I mean, he
jingled the keys.
He figured out how to watch them and to figure out what they were doing, because he had really no idea when he started, right? So, yeah, he totally subscribes to that whole thesis.
And that is a great reference, Paul. Jingle the keys.
That's one of my favorite parts of the whole book, is when he's jingling the keys over the phone lines. Yeah.
Yep, jingle the keys.
It's awesome.
Make a little noise.
Yep.
And he also learned how to keep the hacker on. I mean, creating basically a honeypot before honeypots were a thing. Yep. What did he call it? He called it SDI net. It was a whole bunch of
he created fake information.
Yeah. That wasn't really a thing back then. And he just went to town. By the way, if you ever get a chance to hear Cliff, he's a hoot.
He's
he came and talked with Lawrence Livermore for at least an hour back in the early 90s, and that was the most fun. I've got a video somewhere of it.
Hang on, my dog wants to contribute to this conversation.
Yeah, they always do.
Worries.
Welcome to 2020 and 2021 with working from home. We were talking with somebody on the phone today at work, and they're like, "Sorry for my dog." I'm like, "Whatever." This is the new don't mind my cat either. It's fine. I literally talked. I dot Farsands last week, and I on video the whole time, and I said I will apologize right now if my cat comes and one of my cats comes and bothers me, and I put the camera and moved it so they could see the cat sleeping in the chair behind me, and I'm like, she's usually annoying, and middle of the day I said, oh my God, here she comes, and she walks up, rubs on the camera, turns back around and goes back over to the chair and goes to sleep for another 4 hours. I'm like, okay, good.
Rick, I'd have to say, and I know Joff will agree with me here, that Countdown to Zero Day by Kim Zetter quite arguably is one of the best books. I would venture to say it is the best book on a malware kind of attack. I mean, Sandworm's probably a close second, but I'd give that edge to Countdown to Zero Day for sure.
I would too, and it's an early Hall of Fame winner. Okay, she came out to the ceremony, and we handed her the award, and it's fat. So I've known Kim for a long time now. Yeah, it is the reason you read books.
Yeah,
because when Stuxnet happened, and we should just say Countdown to Zero Day is about the U.S.-Israeli attacks against the Iranian nuclear production plant in Natanz. Right.
And thank you, because I can never remember the damn covers for these books because I listen to them on Audible and I'm not looking at the cover.
Yeah.
So, but we were all immersed in that when it was happening, but we'd read one news story and then another news story, and then 4 weeks later we hear another one.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more.
We never got the complete story.
Yep.
So we get somebody like Kim.
That's the complete story.
Complete story, right? Yeah. And man, that's the way to do it. So that's the mold.
Yeah.
Okay, of the books that we want to have in the Cybersecurity Canon Hall of Fame. And I would say there's a couple more that fit that mold if we're just talking about nation-state operations. The other one that I really like is Sanger's Perfect Weapon.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I read that one too.
So that is, it goes from 2010 to modern day. And he talks about how, when I started doing this business, you guys are old, some of you old timers also, right? But we used to think there was going to be a cyber war, that was going to be only cyber forces on each side, and we'd be launching cyber bombs at each other. And, that was early 2000s, and, we didn't know what we were talking about. Okay. Mm-hmm. What has emerged is this thing called a continuous low-level cyber conflict.
Yes.
Where nation states do everything they can in cyberspace that's just short of war, right? And it's a lot of stuff they can do. And the nation states that are really good at that is what Sanger talks about in his book. And it's all the usual suspects, the U.S., North Korea, Iran, China, and Russia, right? And he covers every major event that's happened in the last 10 years. So if you want to get up to speed, that's a fabulous, fabulous book.
Agreed. I have an affinity towards Kingpin by Kevin Poulsen, the story around Max Butler, aka Max Vision.
I love the Max Butler story. All right, I mean,
I get to the end of that book, and I won't spoil it, but I like Max. I have a new appreciation for him, and I don't look at him as a villain as much. I think before I read the book, the other thing that book did for me, Rick, was a whole new appreciation for PCI, because that chronicles how people were making money hand over fist with credit card fraud. And I was like, wow, PCI really, really did help. And that book, I think, did it for me. How about you?
You know what the takeaway I got from that book was how hard it is to make money with this. The hacking part is the easy part.
Right.
To take credit card information, make fake credit cards, and go buy stuff on, and then sell that stuff. That's an 80-hour-a-week job. That's a job I didn't want. Right.
The laundering part was the hard part, right? It wasn't the hacks. The hacks.
The hacking part was easy, right? Yeah, comparatively, right.
And I'm looking through this list, and I came across one the book is 10 years old. Read Me by Neil Stephenson.
Yeah,
I have not read
that one, and I'm reading through the review a little bit, and I'm like, oh yeah. So I've reviewed Snow Crash and Cryptonomicon. And what was the other one that was mentioned in there? The Baroque Cycle.
The Baroque cycle, yeah.
I'm like, I've read all of those. Like, the Baroque cycle was part of the reason why I wanted to get a 3D printer.
Well, let's talk about that, because we do write reviews about novels, all right? And there's a reason for that, because I want to be able to hand a book to my grandma where the cyber stuff in it is realistic. It's not, the other kind of cyber book is, I call them Harry Potter cyber novels, where the bad guy gets behind the keyboard and says, okay, I'm in because I did some magic, right? I don't want to read those books. I want to be able to read books where the cyber is real. And my favorite cyber novel of all time is Cryptonomicon, right?
Yeah.
That, I love that book, right? I just love it.
Oh my word. That took forever to get through.
Oh yeah, it's dense. Okay?
But and at the end I was like, just speechless. Like,
yeah. I mean, he covers everything, okay, from Alan Turing breaking codes in World War II to finding gold in the modern era to all kinds of hacking
Tempest
things.
And
and by the way, what is the right ratio between Captain Crunch and milk to make it just perfect, right? So
that's important.
So the author is Neil Stephenson. Yep. He is a Lifetime Achievement Award winner for the Cybersecurity Canon. He's everybody that's ever written a review on the committee loves all his books. So Cryptonomicon I highly recommend it, but that is not a book you're going to get through in a weekend. That's a dense story, right?
1,000 pages.
Yeah.
Roughly.
So if you want a lighter version of what Stevenson can do, Remedy, what you were mentioning before, okay, is fabulous, right? It's Russian cybercrime. It's gamers in China. It's one of the main characters owns a World of Warcraft like game. Stevenson invents cryptocurrency in that game. This is years before Bitcoin became a thing, right? So yeah. I think you will love it if you're looking for novels to read.
Switching back to nonfiction just for a moment, we can certainly jump around. Throughout my career, I've made so many wonderful friends, and some of my friends talked about this place called The Pit in the NSA. It told me all kinds of stories about The Pit. And then I was listening to Dark Territory by Fred Kaplan, and I'm like, holy crap, this is like the first time I've ever heard of a work outside of talking to my friends mention The Pit, because it was not like a thing that people really wanted to talk about or write about. And I like instantly messaged my friend, Jeff Mann. I'm like, dude, he's like, yeah, dude, we know. We all had that reaction like years ago, like, you're late to the party, man.
But thanks for joining. Okay, here's your party hat. Okay,
but that's an awesome book. Other than the Pit stuff, just the research you did is amazing.
So what was the site? Oh, Kingpin. You mentioned Kingpin.
Yes.
We need to encourage authors to write more books about cybercrime. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
There isn't enough, right? The Kingpin's probably the latest, and it was good, but we need more. All right. So as you talk to people out there, please encourage them to do so.
Yep. Yeah, you're looking at this list, and I see a book on here that like I didn't expect and kind of grabs me, and it's called Offensive Countermeasures and the Art of Active Defense by John Strand and Paul Asadorian.
Yeah, see, when you get really good at web hacking, you can hack the site and put your own book in there.
I thought that was I thought that was on the do not read list. So, like, hey, you know what? The links is WRT. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
But that was kind of cool to see. But that said,
book there.
That said, I also don't see I'm not finding it easy, the do not read list.
Well, I will just say it's a volunteer organization, okay, and we may need some help making the website better, okay? I founded this when I was working for Palo Alto Networks, all right, and then when I left that company, we transferred it over to Ohio State University. So the web team is a bunch of volunteer interns there. So yes, that's on the list to make it easier to find the books do not read. So I apologize for that.
That's okay.
But the thing I need to mention though is these aren't just book covers. If you click the book cover, you can read the review. So you can decide if you want to read the book yourself by reading what the reviewer said. So keep that in mind as you go to that site.
awesome.
I think one of the other books that changed my life kind of thing is The Phoenix Project. Mm-hmm. I talked a lot about it on the show, and I really want to encourage people not just to read that, but also listen to the Behind the Phoenix Project, or Behind the, I think is what they called it. There's like an audio book, and it's kind of like a podcast series with Gene Kim and the other guy.
Yep.
The other DevOps guy. Yeah. You know who I'm talking about, right?
I'm drawing a blank. Yes.
I'm drawing a blank on it too.
I got to double down on that though, Paul. I couldn't agree more. The Phoenix Project is a must read. I think too many of us in the information security profession lose touch with what we're actually doing, what the mission is, and the Phoenix Project will bring you right back to what the mission is.
I tell you what, the culture here at Security Weekly and now at Cyber Risk Alliance and that I try and instill are lessons from the Phoenix Project, and not just for security, but all operations. It's amazing how you can. I mean, the premise of the Phoenix Project drew from Goldrat's The Goal, that he drew from lean manufacturing, and Gene mirrored that exactly. The characters in the book, it's kind of a parallel story, but also they did a Behind the Goal, and he did a Behind the Phoenix Project. Then, of course, followed that up with the Unicorn Project, which was equally as awesome. And I take lessons from that, and that is how we do operations today, because it's simply amazing.
There's a interesting way to teach, right? To take a human narrative and play it back into the lessons that you want to teach along the way. I wonder if you could do a human narrative like that and teach cybersecurity.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. I don't know. Maybe not all the listeners understood what we're talking about. Gene Kim is a great storyteller, and instead of writing a nonfiction book about DevOps, he writes a novel about a typical IT organization. I'm sure, as you guys were talking about it, you saw yourself in some of those characters as he was rolling through that story, right? And what I love about the Phoenix Project is if you're trying to understand the philosophy of DevOps, that is the perfect book to read. And another book you can get through in a weekend, right? But if you're more technically bent, the companion book I always recommend from the Hall of Fame also is it was written by the Google team called Site Reliability Engineering.
Yes.
Right. And so if you understand the philosophy from Gene Kim's book,
the Google book is the application.
Yeah, it's the how-to manual. Okay, This is how Google did it, right? And I love the story about Google, right? When they were just a search engine, when they weren't as big as they used to be. The leadership of the company made this amazing decision, right? They decided to give the management of the network not to the typical network management team or IT team that all of us had. They gave it to the developers, right? And so when you give that responsibility to a bunch of coders, what do? They automate everything. They're automating their entire infrastructure. This is 6 years before we even had a name of DevOps, right? And so it is the seed to make Google grow into the giant Silicon Valley company that they are today, right? So
without a doubt,
Site Reliability Engineering is the how-to manual for getting this stuff done.
Who was the author on that? I want to say I've interviewed one of the authors. Now I lost it.
There's 4 of them, okay, and they're all Google people. And Betsy Beyer, she's a famous one, and Petrov. I'm going to have to pull up a browser and look up all this stuff, aren't I? Okay.
He's going to have to use Google.
They're going to be, they're going to be mad at me that I don't remember everybody's names. Okay, I should know this stuff.
Use Google to go. Hey, I want to make one more comment though about the Phoenix Project, really quick. What comes to mind for me about the Phoenix Project is if anybody in the consulting world or anybody in our industry is considering taking on a chief information security officer position, that would be the book to give them, to say, look, go read this, because the best thing you can do in your new position as a chief information security officer is go learn the business. Don't make any assumptions, just go learn the business.
Right. My entire life is wrapped up in that book. I see it everywhere, right? And when they talk about technical debt, right? And my entire career has been trying to make things better at places where we still spent all of our time on the previous guy's work, right? Because we just couldn't get out of our own way. All that we had to keep reacting to things that broke and things that weren't working correctly instead of innovating for the company and moving it forward. So DevOps is the ticket, all right, to get rid of all that technical debt. And you're right. This is the book to get you started.
How did you all feel about the representation of the security professional in that book? Was it was it too cliche or was it spot on?
It's
yes.
It's pretty cliche.
Yes.
But spot on too.
Yeah, it's a yes and a yes, right?
I saw myself, in that character.
A lot of introspection, yeah.
I want to recommend a book to all of you that it just got put into the Hall of Fame just this last month. The committee announced the books for this season, and my favorite one from that list is a book called Code Girls by Liza Monday. And it's about the code breaking efforts during World War II here on the American side. We're all familiar with what Turing did at Bletchley Park and all that entire effort, and that's been pretty well documented. But I didn't really understand the amount of effort that went in on the American side to break the Japanese codes. And what's amazing about it is the men got all the credit for it. There were like 2 or 3 guys that were the leaders. But there were 10,000 women in Washington, D.C. that were doing the day-to-day backbreaking, code-breaking efforts that led to breaking the codes that allowed us to win the Battle of Midway, that allowed us to figure out where General Yamamoto was so we could shoot him down and get him out of the war, right? And those kinds of things, right? And so what I really love about that book is that, we in our industry have been talking about how do we get women into our industry. It proved that women, we don't have to get women into the industry. They've been here since the very beginning, helping us, helping the country, learning how to do this kind of cybersecurity stuff. So I highly recommend that book to all your listeners.
I just bought it on Audible because we listen to audiobooks in the car with the family. I have one that I listen to by myself, and I have one that we listen to as a family. We're currently doing Ready Player 2. My wife and my 2 daughters.
How is Ready Player 2? Is it as good as Ready Player 1?
We're still relatively early on in the book. It's good. It's about what you expect. It's about it's effectively a replay of Ready Player 1 with some different scenarios and stuff. That said, it's good because of those exact type of things. But so my wife, our 7-year-old, and our 13-year-old, and some of the language is a little rough for the 7-year-old, but okay, it's fine. So this one I think is going to be really great.
She's got you as a father.
Exactly. So I think this would be a great listen for this summer when Ready Player 2 is over. So great stuff.
I want to recommend one more from this year's list that I highly recommend. It's Like War by Singer and Emerson. All right, these guys have crafted a history of influence operations, not only in nation-state activity, but also in our culture. All right, and have outlined how we got to where we are today, where most of us can't even believe the truth that's out there these days, right? But what I really like about it, after they explain it all, right, is that they offer some real solutions that we could use going forward. Solutions that other nations have used and are resilient to this kind of influence operation. And so please take a look at that one. I think all of us need to have the skills to look for those influence operations and not react to it the way we have been doing in the past couple of years.
Yeah, and so Rick, you said by Singer and Emerson. How do you spell that?
Yeah.
Emerson. Okay.
Yeah.
Emerson T. Brooking.
It's one of those things that I did like war
I am
as well.
totally making notes right now.
Joff, there's a web page that has all these listed on it. And it's in the
I don't think we've mentioned ones that haven't been on the list. I have a couple, Rick. I'm curious to get your take on it. Hackers, Heroes of the Computer Revolution by Stephen Levy. One of my favorite books.
It has been reviewed, but it didn't make it into the Hall of Fame. So let me tell you how this works.
Yeah, please do.
So the books, they get nominated by one of the committee members. These are the folks that read the book and write the review and make their recommendation whether it should be in the Hall of Fame or not. And then once a year, the committee gets together and discusses and debates and yells at each other about which book should make it. And those get put into the Canon Hall of Fame. But those books that were nominated stay on the list for 5 years, right? Just like the baseball, like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like the Baseball Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And then if they don't make it in 5 years, then they get put into a special category, right?
Gotcha.
So Levy's book didn't. It's always been close, but never made it. Never made it in. Yeah.
And that said, they will always be considered a nominee.
Sure. Yeah, and books you should read. Okay. But yeah.
So tell me about how come some of them have 2 reviews.
Because we wanted to encourage debate with committee members. So it's one thing if Rick says this book is good, but if Rick and Joe disagree, that's another bullet we can add to whether or not it should be in the canon or not. All right. So we like it when other people review the books. And in fact, we've been encouraging teachers to let their students review the books as kind of an extra credit thing. All right. So we'd love to publish those on the webpage too.
And one sort of question that I've got, maybe a little self-serving, and I'll kind of ask the question on Paul's behalf as well, just knowing that we know lots of folks that are consumers of this exact same content. How does one get to be a member of the committee?
Just ask.
Hey, can I be a member of the committee?
Yes, we're always looking for people. Let me tell you the requirements, okay? Yeah. So maybe you won't be...
might not be so eager after you hear this part.
No audiobooks.
No, you can... Audiobooks count. Right? Yep. So you have to read 2 books a year, and you have to write a book review that makes the case what I said at the beginning. Is it a Hall of Fame book? Is it a niche book? Or is it a do not read book? There are monthly meetings, okay, there's committees because we're trying to make everything better. Mm-hmm. And then and we have the one meeting where we vote every year, right? And so that's the requirement. So if you were willing to do all that, please come join us. We would glad to have you, right? And by the way, we could sure use a more technical crowd, all right? Most of the folks that we've had on the committee so far have been, pretty high level. Okay. It's been a while since they were an engineer. Okay. So we'd love to have some techies in there reviewing technical books. But here's the thing. The criteria to make it into the Hall of Fame is the book needs to be evergreen, right? So there won't be a book on NT security in the Hall of Fame because, Hey, all right. So one of the flaws in our system is a technical book that was good this year probably won't be as good 5 years from now, right? So,
fair enough. So I'll be reaching out after the show.
Absolutely. Okay.
So, Larry, maybe we should challenge each other. Maybe we should challenge each other, Larry, and do this together. That'd be crazy.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Rick, there's a couple of books I'm curious to see where they are in respects to this project. I really liked Masters of Deception, The Gang That Ruled Cyberspace. Mm-hmm. That was on the MOD Masters of Deception hacking group out of New York.
Yep. So here's our problem. I don't have enough reviewers. Okay. Yeah. So if you see a book that you would like to be put on the list, we will take a review from anybody. Right. It doesn't have to be a committee member. All right. And we'll put it in the list as we vote for books at the end of the year. And it goes through the same criteria that all the other books have gone through. And so if you see a giant hole in our canon, it's supposed to be the canon of cybersecurity professionals. So if we're missing a book that you think should be there, please submit a review or get someone to write a review, and we will get it on the list for consideration.
It's awesome. I also really liked The Hacker Crackdown, Law and Disorder on the Electronic Frontier by Bruce Sterling.
I like that one too, right? And I it's been on my list to write the review for that. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
The one I would add, unless it's on here and I'm just missing it, is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. I feel like every cybersecurity professional should read that book on cognitive biases.
Yeah, there's a whole list of books that you wouldn't typically call a cybersecurity book that we want on there. And Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow is one of our committee members is reading that this year. So hopefully we'll see it on the list.
Awesome. I also, Damon by Daniel Suarez holds a special place in my heart. Before Daniel was very widely known as he is today, he graciously came on our show.
I know, and I missed every one.
I know.
And I was the one that introduced you guys to him.
Such an awesome book.
That is an awesome book, okay? And that one is on the list, okay? So
all of his books, cybersecurity related or otherwise, are awesome.
Yes. That was his first. That was his first book.
It was.
That was his first one. Yeah. I keep waiting for the movie to come out. There was some rumor that there were going to be a movie, and I think it kind of fell short. But
that happens.
It's going to make an awesome movie.
Rick, what I found in reading a lot of these books and interviewing a lot of the authors from these books is that a lot of them are put forward as screenplays, and very few of them make it to actually having a movie made.
Yeah, I think you're right about
somebody
that,
did buy the rights to make the movie of it, and it just never went anywhere. And I think about the suspense and what they could do with making that action, that would make a great movie.
That hits all of my joy centers, okay? Because there's hacking involved, there's gaming. The bad guy recruits his evil army through a World of Warcraft like game, right? He gives them special missions in the game to find the right talents. And as he cultivates them, he starts to give them missions in the real world to see if they're any good, right? And so how cool is that? What a fantastic idea for recruitment.
Cyber remote controlled AI motorcyles, what's not to
with
love?
Machetes.
Yeah,
with
what's
machetes.
Not to love?
Yeah, come on.
Drones following behind it.
Yeah,
I'm totally in.
Yeah.
If Ready Player One could be made into a movie, they could make Damon into a movie too.
Damn straight. Damn straight.
Yep.
So you mentioned students writing reviews. Are they you're just talking about OSU, or is it wider than that?
It hasn't really caught on. When I talk to university teachers, I always encourage them, and they all say, "Yeah, we're going to do it," but I never see any. So anybody listening to this show, okay, that's an absolutely thing. We will take student reviews.
Where's Doug White when you need him?
I was going to say, where's Dr. Doug when we need him?
There's Rick, certain hacker groups that I think are pretty quintessential to the hacker culture canon, as it were. And you've got one of them as a winner, Cult of the Dead Cow by Joseph Menn, which was really good. You've got the Masters of Deception book. There's really not one book focused on the Legion of Doom. It's mentioned, their members are mentioned in several
a couple of times.
Right, several other works, but there's nothing really dedicated to just that group, and perhaps some other hacker groups as too. And I think it's a missed opportunity for those that want to write a book, right?
Dude, you should write a book.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you guys have been following the trend, though. You're podcasters. I'm a podcaster. I've been listening to podcasts forever. And we mentioned Audible books, before, right? What I'm seeing is the whole industry is merging, right? That the books are the books that we're listening to are turning into podcasts. I just listened to Malcolm Gladwell's the Bomber Mafia.
Yep.
And it's a fantastic story, but it's really a very long podcast, right? And if you like Malcolm Gladwell, you will love it. And I'm thinking that the entire publishing industry is going to get turned on its ear as all of us can create our own audiobooks at home these days, right? So you're not going to need to go to some big publishing house to get published. So if that's what's stopping you, I think you should look forward and try to find a new way to publish your stuff.
Rick, I think we're all podcasters here, right? And I think we'd be remiss to not mention Jack Rosider's Darknet Diaries, where each episode's kind of like a mini book, right? Like it's a short story. Yeah. And also Malicious Life with Rand Levy is also, they're both very similar in that vein.
Yep.
And there's a number of podcasts that are just one season serials that they just take one event and kind of roll it out just like a book, but it's not a repeating show. So I see the whole industry merging into something completely different.
Yep. Now that said, sure, you can record your own audiobook at home. The other one is, if you're going to do that, be careful. I have listened. So not only do I like the computer security and those types of books, I'm also a huge fan of like zombie and end of the world type scenarios.
Sure. Yeah.
And there was one series that I started to listen to, and I got about 30 minutes in and I had to put it away and save it for another day because it literally sounded like the guy who was recording it for Audible was in his garage. At one point, I think I heard him stand up and like the metal chair scrape across the cement floor, that sound, and I'm like, I did not. No, not now.
Well, I think you make a good point. In the early days when we were reading books on tape, you guys old enough to remember that?
Yep.
Audio, cassette tapes.
And when you get them from the library, you could put them on your dual cassette deck.
I
remember those days.
I read about that.
I heard about that on.
Back in those days, the authors thought it was a good idea to read their own books, and most of them have no talent for reading, right? So I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and he can't read his own books. They sound awful when he reads them, right? And the big trend is to get actors to read the books now, right?
Yes.
And both fiction and nonfiction. And they're so much better, with somebody who knows how to act, right?
Some of them are like a full production. Like Audible actually has an Audible original called Freaks, and I started listening to it, and then I transitioned to something else. I'm going to come back to it.
PH Freaks, right?
PH Freaks, and there's a full cast, and it's read like a movie, but
like a play,
like a radio show, right?
Yeah, like an old school radio show.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. But like you think about bringing some of those actors in, like Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, read by Will Wheaton.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep.
Right.
I listened to, like I said, I was a Stephen King fan. I listened to The Mist. Okay, and The Mist is a really scary book, great movie, right? But it was done as an audio play with music and sound effects, and I was on Neighborhood Watch in my neighborhood, and I decided to listen to it while I was driving around like at 2:00 in the morning. That was a mistake.
Big mistake. Yeah, because when you add the sound effects in, because the Freaks book, it's that sound effect. Yeah, it's
been there, done that. That was a huge mistake.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Don't do that.
That's when you got to lower the quality of your headphones, so you can tell the difference between reality and the story.
Now, I mean, Rick, to that point, I mean, we're kind of right on the line flirting with it. I mean, do we create a movie canon, or are there just not enough movies to really have that?
Oh.
No, I think there is, but we just don't have the bandwidth to get it all done, right? I think there's a movie canon, and I also think there's a...
TV show canon.
Yeah, I think there's also a paper canon. Papers that have changed the world, like the Intrusion Kill Chain paper by Lockheed Martin, or the Buffer Overflow paper from the 90s.
And the Bastard Operator from Hell stories.
Yeah, all of that. I think there is we just didn't have the bandwidth for it, so it may be at some point.
Rick, what are your favorite hacker movies? Since we're talking canon.
We actually did a survey for all the hacker community about which movies they thought were their gateway drug, what got them into hacking, right? And it depends on how old you are.
Yep.
Right. So for me, my generation, I'm an old white guy. All right. The movie that got us all interested was
War Games.
War Games. Yeah, absolutely. Right. The next generation past us was Hackers. with Angelique. Jolie.
Yeah, I think Sneakers kind of plays in there in kind of the middle genre.
Yeah, Sneakers is my number 2. Okay, yeah. very close number 2. All right.
I think Tron plays in there too. Mm-hmm. Not straight hacker kind of movie, but certainly the original Tron, right?
Yep. And we talk about that too, Paul. I do a lot of maker culture type of stuff in addition to what I do for my day job, and sometimes they intersect. For me, we've talked about this like on Unsung Hero with the Manhattan Project. Mm-hmm. Like that was a movie that really got me into the maker culture type of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And not necessarily a hacker movie, but
right.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, the next generation past is The Matrix. We surveyed like 500 people, and that was kind of the order, right? But you're right. Sneakers is a rewatchable. Besides being a great movie, there's all these great scenes in it, right? So yeah, so it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, when The Matrix was released on DVD, they had a section you can actually like kind of hack in the
really?
Yeah, awesome. the website is still out there.
Oh, it's the website. That's right.
There is.
Yeah.
What is thematrix.com?
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Did you hacksaw The Matrix?
Nope. Never. Nope.
And I'm going to just put a plug in for Black Hat. I know people hate that movie, all right? Okay, but it's gorgeous.
And what was that, Joff?
Isn't the guy that
in that one? Yeah.
The guy that played somebody like me in the movie.
Chris Helmsworth.
Yeah, the guy that plays somebody like me is Thor. How can you not like that? Right? So, yeah, you should go back and watch it.
Hey, it kept my wife interested for a little while, right?
Sun's out, guns out, baby.
That's the thing. They'll be like, I don't like Marvel. And then they'll look at the TV screen and Thor's on the screen. And they're like, wait, hold on. Can we start that one from the beginning?
My wife is not a war history movie type fan. And then we watched Enemy of the Gates with Jude Law, and Jude Law is like her favorite. She's like, oh, this is pretty good.
It's a good movie, yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, this is awesome. I mean, Rick, are you looking for volunteers and help? Is that...
Absolutely. If you guys want, I put the call out every time I talk about this, right? If you are interested in doing it, we'd love to have you. And put the word out, okay? We're in fact, we're recruiting right now. The next season of the Canon Committee starts next month.
Excellent. So,
now, you said folks can recommend books to the Canon. Can we also recommend ones to the never read list?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's the one I find most valuable. Right? We don't, especially for people that don't read that much, and they've listened to this show and they've decided, I'm gonna be better this year. I'm gonna read one book. We don't want them to start off with a bad one.
Don't start with the bad ones, because there are some bad ones out there.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Rick, this is great stuff. I suppose we should ask you the full 5 questions now.
Yeah.
Oh, let's bring it. The full Monty.
You already answered one of them. So, Rick, are you ready to play 4 questions now with Security Weekly?
Absolutely. Bring it.
3 words.
4.25.
That's right. 3 words to describe yourself.
Oh, 3 words to describe myself. Reader. Biker. Dog lover. How about that?
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Knife.
If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Imposter syndrome.
Choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Alive, dead,
fictional or otherwise.
Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Sounds like you thought about that before, Rick.
No, I just watched a movie with them. Right, so
there you go. Well, Rick, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've heard the call for help, and I think many of us on the show and listening are willing to help in some capacity. I love that you are highlighting books that many of us know and love. So this is an awesome project.
Well, thanks for letting me come on, guys. I really appreciate it. And if you want to come and help me, just let me know, and we'll bring you on. So, and get the word out. Okay, it's a totally free resource. It's good for newbies. It's good for seasoned professionals. So take advantage.
Outstanding. You can find Rick on the Cyberwire podcast as well. Thanks for coming on the show. Coming up next, the security news. Stay tuned.